And welcome everybody to another glorious episode of the Put on Raiders podcast. I'm your host, along with Ryan Holmes. I'm Dwayne Douglas, and we are podcasting on the beautiful shores of the Pacific Ocean. A beautiful night out here in Southern California. Wasn't a beautiful Monday night football game for the Raiders, and we were both in the house in SoFi. And I'm gonna write down a little note that we should give a little critique of what SoFi experience was. It was my first time there, so yeah, I was bring a jacket if it's a night game. It's like a wind tunnel in that place. As far as that goes. Our TPOW podcast is my Twitter handle, along with the shows is Raiders Pod. That's at Raiders Pod on Twitter. Ryan is RHOLM22. And then it's for him on Instagram, it's the same. On mine, it's for the show, it's Put On Waivers _ podcast, and at Put On Raiders podcast as well. YouTube, you got to search. I'm trying to mix it up, but I'm trying to set it the right way. But right now, if you type in "cover 3 deep Raiders," you'll find the show. Trying to put that into Put On Waivers Media to kind of mix it up. 858-295592. You guys have answered the call. You guys and girls have answered the call as far as questions go. We got a bunch of them here, so we'll get to that a little bit later. But as we start our show, we're going to start the show with the first and 10. And the first and 10 is where we go 10 minutes. First 10 minutes, I got a clock running right now. The first the 10 minutes, 4 subjects around the National Football League. And let's start in New England, where it's over. Okay. So, sorry to tell y'all, but it's over. Y'all better go to watch the Rays play the Red Sox because it's over. It's done. It's over. It's done with. You can't be the next coming of Tom Brady if you played 4 games and have only had 4 games and you don't score 20 points in any of those games. He is more like a different kind of quarterback, not Tom Brady. I'll let Ryan has the best player comp I've heard for Mac Jones in New England. What was your player comp for Mac Jones?
Watching Mac Jones, he reminds me a lot of Chad Pennington from his days with the Jets. Just kind of, okay arm, good decision maker, a lot of check downs, gets the ball where he needs to go. But he needs a lot around him. And the media pundits after the game that are saying if there's a redraft, Mac Jones will go number 1 are clueless.
Number 1.
And they would say, I heard a bunch of guys on ESPN say he would go over Trevor Lawrence. And I could line up scouts from every team in the NFL, and every one of them is taking Trevor Lawrence over Mac Jones. And most of them are taking Zach Wilson and Justin Fields over him. Now, we can have the Trey Lance, Mac Jones argument if you want. I mean, there are factors that would lead you to go one way or the other based on what you're looking for within an offense. But I agree with you. This is not a playoff team. Belichick today basically gave away his best player for a 6th-round pick next year because he needed cap room, because he gave all of his cap to a bunch of aging, older veterans in the offseason. Like, do you imagine another team?
C-plus players.
Imagine if another team in the NFL did that. They traded off their best player, who they got into an argument over because they didn't want to give him a contract after he was Defensive Player of the Year. Put him on PUP to make a point because the guy was healthy. Like, he wasn't missing time because he was injured. He didn't want to go to camp. And now all of a sudden you just discard him for a sixth rounder. Yeah, I'm not buying it. There was stuff probably going on behind the scenes there, but it's over in New England. This year for 2021, I mean, they're 0-3 at home. They've played 3 or 4 home. They've lost to the Dolphins. They lost to the Saints, and then lost to the Bucs. They played the Bucs well. I'll give the defense credit. It was a rainy night. The Bucs didn't do much on offense, but you play that game again in a neutral territory and fair weather, and I think the Bucs beat them pretty handily. So, to me, like we talked about, whether they finish 2nd or 3rd in the division, I don't think they're going to win enough games to make a playoff run this year.
No, they're done. I mean, they're done, and they're done, and the run is over. And I think it's, he made a decision that I think that in retrospect, Robert Kraft, if he had to do it again, would have probably taken Brady. They should have taken Brady and had McDaniels be the head coach. And then tell Belichick, all right, I'll see you later. That's what they should have did. Because if you would have spent this money the right way, Brady could have convinced some of these star players to come play with him because they want to win rings. sign a 1 year deal here. It's kind of like what LeBron James just does with the Lakers. Sign 1 year deal, I'll get you to the finals. You never been to finals before? It's great. I'll show you how to get there. Like, you know what I mean? Stuff like that. So it didn't happen. And then now it's over. And I think it's a really it's not unfortunate because we all want that thing to end. Unless you're a Patriot fan, it's over. It's done with. And no other words to kind of describe what's going on as far as that goes. Let's see. Next would be I'm gonna go with our guy. Everybody's gonna blame, and I listen to everything with the Niners and all this stuff like that. Listen again. Let me run it back for you. Admittedly, did not do his due diligence on Watson and Mahomes. Like that's you're an offensive play caller on Kyle Shanahan. Didn't do that. Didn't want to get put all his eggs in the Kirk Cousins basket. Wasn't able to get Kirk Cousins. Wasn't able to get Tom Brady. Didn't want Tom Brady. Said the film wasn't good enough. And then now they're struggling again. They're doing everything in their power not to start Trey Lance, which is like amazing to me. Like, you get all these access for him, and they don't want to trade him. And now, this is a situation where they lose a home game where they're pretty much dominating the entire game, up 7-0 at the half, and then they end up losing that game to Seattle because you're obviously not going to shut out the Seahawks. Thoughts about the Niners here and what they do forward?
Yeah, I think if Trey Lance has to play, he can give them flashes of some dynamic plays, but I don't think play in and play out, he's ready to read defenses, drop back, and get in games where it has to be a shootout. They're going to have to play really good defense and run the football, and then hope he makes 2 or 3 splash plays and try to win games, 20-17, 21-14, those kind of things. It's funny. I know a couple of 49er fans, and they've been on the Trey Lance bandwagon since the draft pick, basically. In the minute Jimmy went down, I'm getting texts like, we should just play Trey Lance for the rest of the season, let him develop, take our lumps. It's like, you guys have been calling for this guy since day one. And the minute he enters the game, you throw your hands up and say the season's over.
Yes, exactly.
So it's interesting that what you're hearing come out of there. I watched that game, and he did make some decent throws. He has arms to make, he can run around. I just don't think he's ready to throw the ball around the yard 30, 35 times and read defenses and keep that team in the game right now, because I don't think they have the weapons outside. I like Kittle. I like Ayuk. I like Sample. Those are yak guys. Those guys aren't winning vertically down the field. They're not challenging and blowing the top off the defenses. So I think if they can't get that running game going, and with all the injuries they have, it's going to be tough for them with a rookie quarterback to score, 24 to 30 points week in and week out, win football games.
We talk about executives. We talk about moves that are made all the time. Right now, didn't they basically draft Ayuk and draft Kinlaw and trade away DeForest Buckner? Like, was that did they win that trade? I mean,
Kinlaw for a Buckner? No, they didn't win that trade.
I mean, they didn't win that trade. I mean, I know they have a track record of getting defensive line. I mean, look at it this way. I mean, they even in the acquisition department, they let go of Solomon Thomas, who's playing very well for the Raiders, and signed, Maurice Hurst and Arden Key. I mean, how is that? I mean, like for depth pieces, the depth pieces. So was Thomas for the Raiders, but he's shown much more with the Raiders than they've shown with the Niners. So, I mean, like you have a talented player, a very unique, kind of a unicorn guy, and DeForest Buckner. You got to keep that player. You got to keep that player. You can't in any way let him ride into the sunset because of money. You're the Niners. Somebody has to restructure to keep DeForest Buckner. Your preseason pick. I didn't have a preseason pick. Everybody asked me what my preseason pick was for a dark horse team, and I just didn't have one. I didn't feel really passionate about anybody, so I'm not gonna lie to anybody about it. But yours was the Carolina Panthers, and the Panthers are playing. They're not playing around as far as the offseason. I mean, the offseason and the in season. Ryan, they go out there and get Gilmore. They go out there and get CJ Henderson for an old pair of Vans, like I said on the internet today, on Twitter today. Great job by them, and they're coming for that number one spot. Like they're coming for they're not sitting here conceding the division to the Buccaneers at all.
and this is year 2 of Matt Rule on a 7-year contract, and they're going all in. Good for them. Like I believed enough in Darnold. I thought, getting McCaffrey back was really going to help them. I thought they had enough weapons on the outside. But I love the defense. And I talked about them potentially being a top 10 defense earlier, a couple months ago on this podcast. Clearly, they're going to finish in the top 10. They didn't show up well against the Cowboys, but the Cowboys have a ton of weapons. But they're going to win. They're going to win enough games within that division. I don't know if they're going to challenge Tampa. Tampa can just hold on and get to 12 or 13 wins, but I definitely see Carolina as a 10 or 11 win team. The defense is really good, and if they get into the playoffs and J.C. Horn can get back on the field, they got 3 dynamic corners. I just like where they're headed. I just like watching how that defense flew around the field last year, and they have a defensive line. They can get after people.
Three. The way to get to Brady is rush 4. And be able to play tight defense on the back end and they have, if they get Horn back, you're talking about 3 really talented cornerbacks going after, the likes of Godwin and Mike Evans and all those guys. I mean, that could be something to watch for as far as that goes. And this is like the page 6 or the National Enquirer section of our show here with Urban Meyer. So let's get to Urban Meyer real quick. Please, USC, do yourself a favor. Don't be stupid. But so they have a Thursday night game in Ohio, which is like, he's very fond of Ohio, obviously. And he says, all right, squad, I see y'all later. I'm gonna chill with the fam. See y'all back in Jacksonville. Stays. And then people take pictures of him and videos of him with some girl grinding up on him, whatever. I've heard people say this is cause for him to be fired. I've heard people say, leave him alone. Which I would leave him alone. I mean, whatever. Like, and I don't really like, you are a head coach. There's some jobs you get where what you do in the public's eye, it matters. And I can tell you one thing, if that was John Gruden, I could not even imagine the grilling that he would have taken by some of these people. But listen, he's not invested. He's not fighting with that team, obviously. What are your thoughts about Urban Meyer, and should he still be a head coach of this, of this football team?
Yeah, I think they're definitely going to keep him around for this year and see what happens and see how the team responds. He's had to have lost the locker room. For a guy that comes in and wants to talk about character and building up the locker room with the right type of guys, he clearly made a mistake, and a guy that's been around the game as long as he has, albeit at the college level. But he's been an analyst. He's talked about the game. I've actually read his book that he had at Ohio State a couple of years ago. And he just seems like he's doing the exact opposite of everything that he's preached. And was it a bad lapse in judgment? Yes. But I heard that was his bar. And there's a picture of him and his wife up on the wall. And he's in there and he's saying, oh, I was in the wrong place at the wrong time. Like, no, you weren't, dude. He knew what he was doing. As far as the team, though, like, the team's not talented enough to win in the first place. And now you're losing the locker room. Like, those guys aren't going to go out. And when we get to later in the show, I'll talk about a couple of picks for this week I like, and it's definitely going to be whoever's playing Jacksonville.
Yeah.
So we'll get to that later. But, yeah, USC, stay away. I wouldn't get anywhere near this guy. There's controversy. How long has he been in Jacksonville? 4 or 5 months? He had the issue with the strength trainer he hired from Iowa that he had to fire. Yeah, he's lost the locker rooms come out against him in training camp for some of his practices and how he treats players. Basically jettisoned any top draft pick out of there already. CJ Henderson being one of them that he didn't draft.
You think CJ Henderson's complaining right now?
No. When's the last time an owner of an NFL team had to come out in week 4, the first year he's got a coach, and give a statement about how the coach needs to regain the trust of the locker room? Yeah. I could definitely see not the Panthers, but I could see the Jaguars, if this thing goes south quickly, and we're looking at 0-7, 0-8, where they could let him go for cause and try to get out of that contract. He's had some things come up there that could be cause for legal concern from what I've seen online. So we'll see. I mean, if they want out of that contract, they might have a way to get out of it. And he might want out of that contract because LSU might be open, USC might be open.
Yeah, exactly.
There's going to be schools. And then Chicago. Would the Bears hire him if Jacksonville let him go with Justin Fields? I have no idea, but he's going to have more suitors. I just hope it's not USC.
I would say this: you and I both know about firing a coach for cause. Yeah.
Is there an overhead projector anywhere?
That's what, it's still available.